Hey, and welcome to the 52 podcast with Gregarious and Nympholette. This is episode 6. We decided to do a documentary to switch things up a little bit. So, this is going to be about Seaspiracy, which, if you haven't seen it, watch it. We're going to talk about it in depth, sort of. We're basically just going to run through a quick synopsis on Wikipedia and then jump into things that we found interesting about it because this is a sort of different format.
Yeah, basically that's what we're gonna do. It's doesn't have a plot necessarily, but it's a documentary, and we'll just talk about what shocked us.
And you might never eat fish again.
You might, and you still might eat fish and
Just be a dickhead. Yeah.
basically, or not care about your health.
Or the environment, or our planet, or really a bunch of other things.
Yeah,
Alright, so synopsis for Seaspiracy. The film features human impacts on marine life, such as plastic marine debris, ghost nets, and overfishing around the world. It argues that commercial fisheries are the main driver of marine ecosystem destruction. Seaspiracy rejects the concept of sustainable fishing and criticizes several marine conservation organizations, including the Earth Island Institute and its Dolphin Safe label, and the Sustainable Seafood certifications of the Marine Stewardship Council. It also criticizes efforts by organizations to reduce household plastic given the impact of ghost nets. It accuses these initiatives of being a cover up for the environmental impact of fishing and corruption in the fishing industry. The film advocates for marine reserves and the elimination of fish consumption. The documentary also covers the Taiji dolphin drive hunt, whaling in the Faroe Islands, and modern slavery within the fishing industry in Thailand.
yeah, that's a lot. I gotta say, when I first buckled in, people would say, "Oh, you'll never eat fish again," and I thought that was ridiculous because I love seafood.
You think they're exaggerating?
You definitely think they're exaggerating, because people are always exaggerating. And I've seen like other documentaries like about, I guess like the dairy industry and like meat, and I'm still not a vegan, so whatever. But yeah, we follow this guy who's basically got a hard on for the marine industry.
For the ocean
Yeah,
itself, since he was a kid, apparently.
which is pretty cool. But the things, I guess I'll just start talking about things that freak me out.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, for example, I love salmon. It's a fatty fish. It's not very fishy. But then they basically explained what farmed salmon is, and it's disgusting. It's not pink. They dye it. They choose what color of pink to dye it.
That was fascinating. They literally, these fish farmers have basically a color palette to choose from for what they want their salmon to look like.
A fucking swatch, but instead of for a house, it's for a fish that I'm gonna eat. It's really nasty because they're actually gray.
And apparently, there are like lice that are eating them alive while they're growing in these farming pods.
STDs are running
The
rampant.
fish have chlamydia. How does that even happen?
I don't even know. I didn't even know fish fuck like that. I guess that's how there's more of them, but I never thought about it.
They don't. Where'd the chlamydia come from?
Oh, yeah, and so that was gross. I'm not eating salmon again because
And then
it's
people will be like, "Well, don't eat farm salmon. Get the
the
wild
wild
caught
caught.
salmon."
Wild
Well,
caught.
guess what? That wild caught salmon, first of all, also dying because we've basically eradicated. I want to say from what I remember, like 95% of almost all of the commonly eaten fish's populations. It's also, I don't even know where to get it. There's so much shit that this documentary throws at you that you probably have to see it a second time, and then you really won't fucking eat fish ever again, because the first time there's so much shock value that you're just like, there's no way this is all happening and nobody fucking knows about it.
And they're covering it up in the weirdest way. Like,
The strangest ways. Secret police, regular police, the people that are supposedly protecting the environment are covering it up. The movie starts off with this kid wanting, like, he's been wanting to do nature documentaries his entire life about the ocean. Like, he loves David Attenborough. He loves that other lady that I can't remember her name. And he wants to talk about like the beauty of the ocean, and then he finds out that the ocean is basically dying because of humans in various ways. So the first thing that they look into is like that Taiji dolphin hunt in Japan, and they go there, and apparently anybody foreign that shows up in Taiji is immediately followed by the police, specifically if they have cameras. Like, they are followed to their hotel room. The hotel rooms are bugged. They can't talk about shit that's going on while they're in the room because they know that people are listening in on it. They go and watch the hunt, and these people are just slaughtering dolphins. Like, just fucking killing them. Supposedly, part of the reason is because of, like, the marine park industry, where you're capturing dolphins for them to go to, like, SeaWorld or whatever the fuck, which is just a whole other bullshit topic we could talk about another time. And any of the ones that they don't capture, they murder because they're like, the dolphins are eating the fish that we're trying to catch.
Yeah. It's interesting. That part didn't shock me quite as much, just because I'd seen a documentary years ago called The Cove that had to do specifically with dolphins. But what really got me, truthfully, was the dolphin safe labels on tuna.
Ooh.
This, because I've made it a point in my life to, when I buy tuna, to get tuna, dolphin safe cans, which Greg always told me was bullshit, but he didn't know
I didn't know how deep it went. So
yeah.
Apparently, I read the name of what that place was. The Earth Island Institute. This guy goes there to the Earth Island Institute and talks to like the CEO or whoever's in charge. And he's like, so your dolphin safe label, how does that work? And the guy's basically like, well, we send out people who watch the fishermen and make sure that they're fishing in a way that is safe for dolphins. And the guy's like, okay, how often are those people out there? He's like, well, they're out there often enough. And he's like, well, can you give me a like a real number? And the guy's like, well, I guess they're not out there that often.
It was next to never.
So we're not really seeing how they're doing it. We just trust in the fact that they are fishing dolphin safe. So he's like, so how do you assure, you just said that you have people watching, but that you rarely have people watching. So how do you know that they're fishing safely? And he's like, well, I guess we can't know that they're fishing safely. And he's like, okay, so why do you provide these labels for these people? And basically it comes down to the fact that these companies that have the dolphin safe label just paid for it. They just pay for it and say that they're fishing safely.
Yeah, which made me kind of feel like shit.
And then it also turns out that some of those people that are sent out to watch whether companies are fishing safely, whether they're from an independent institution like the Earth Island Institute or from a government board, they're just murdered and tossed off of the boats half the time.
There's a lot of murder that actually goes on with fishing that I also didn't know about, which is kind of cool.
And slavery, which is not cool.
Well, no, not cool, but cool. Like, and you're like, yo, what? Like, that was wild. Like, they're wilding. So I think it was in Thailand.
Thailand was the heavy
one.
Slavery.
Yeah, they have people on ships and they're kind of trapped there, fishing. And if they
forever,
yeah. And if they don't comply, they're just basically tossed off. And there's much.
But before that, they'll like mutilate them.
Well, yeah.
Like, they'll cut off fingers, they'll cut off hands.
Well, because they're going to still try to get them to work for them, and if they just keep...
And then if they don't, they just kill them.
They just kill them, that is modern-day slavery.
To the point where the guy talking about the slavery was like... It was like one of those inside drug corporation type shows where the guy had a voice changer, he was silhouetted in the dark.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you continue to look into this, they'll fucking murder you.
This is not safe. Like, you need to stop. For your own sake, you know what I mean? And you're sitting there like, yo, I just wanted to eat.
This is just fish. I just wanted a scrimp.
Yeah, I just wanted a script. I didn't know that this is where it all comes from. And the thing that also really got me, that freaked me out, well, probably not the most, but up there, was that I didn't realize that the way that the oceans had so much to do with the environment in
Like
terms,
oxygen.
yeah, like our oxygen, like
90% of it comes from sea plant life.
so everyone's always talking about rainforests and like, you know, cutting down trees and all this shit, and I'm usually up, right up there with that, like, yeah, like that's got to be the way. And they're like, no, it's fishing, like we're really doing this over fish. That's really fucked
And
up.
fish are good, but they're not that
They're
fucking
not
good.
that
They're
good
not that good.
for all of that damage. No, I don't think so.
No. So then we move on to the Marine Stewardship Council. This is one of those, and he goes into depth about various sort of quote non-profit companies that are trying to clean up the oceans, and almost all of their drive is towards reducing single-use plastic. So stop using cutlery from takeout
straws.
restaurants, straws, plastic bags in the supermarket, in the grocery store, whatever. And it turns out that the majority of the plastic in the ocean is fishing related.
It's like fishing nets.
Fishing nets, fishing line, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of tons of fishing equipment. So he goes to the lady in charge of the Marine Stewardship Council. I think.
Well, he goes in. There's some lady who's on like she has to do with straws.
She's in charge of one of those companies that's like talking about cleaning up the ocean.
Okay.
OSHA is
Something else
completely
that's
different.
not even related. That might have to do with workers.
It does. And he's like, look, fishing, it's like the actual act of fishing, like with the ocean trawling, deep water nets that are apparently miles long and
fucking up coral reefs,
lead with weights that are destroying hundreds of thousands of miles of seafloor per year, which is what's destroying some of that plant life, or a lot of that plant life that provides oxygen for the entire planet. As well as all of the fishing waste and byproduct, not even to mention the fact that all of this fishing is actually killing off a bunch of other species that aren't even meant to be eaten through a process called bycatch that we'll get into in a second. And he's like, so hold on a minute. You're telling us to not use single-use plastics, and you're telling us to only eat sustainable fish, but most of the plastic in the ocean is fishing related, and most of the fish that we would eat that are, quote, sustainable are leading to the deaths of sea turtles, porpoises, seals, dolphins, whales, sharks, everything else.
Basically, there is no sustainable fish.
And she's like, you know what? I guess you're right. Like, there really is no way to do that, but we can't talk to the consumer about not eating fish. That wouldn't be the way to go. And he's like, what do you mean that wouldn't be the way to go? Like, you're destroying the planet. And she's like, yeah, you know what? I guess probably not eating fish at all would be, the proper course to take. And he talks to the next lady from that company because she's the CEO is like, well, if you want to talk about why our website doesn't mention fishing plastics as the majority of plastics in the ocean, you'd have to talk to the lady who does our website. So he goes and talks to that lady, and he's like, so your CEO basically just said that consumers should just not eat fish, and that's the way we're going to be able to help rejuvenate the ocean. She's like, she never said that.
I thought that woman was her higher up.
No.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought, but maybe not.
How are you going to say she never said that? And he replays the clip, and she's like, shut off the camera. We're not doing this.
We're not, yeah. Yeah, it was really eye-opening because there's just no way around it. There's no sustainable.
There isn't.
But what really, even if you don't really care about the planet and you're like, oh, we're all going to die anyway and all this other shit, like, sometimes I'm like that. But it's just not healthy for you. Like, it's just not healthy.
No, because then they looked into what's in the fish, and besides the fact that they're eating plastic.
Yeah, so microplastic.
And aside from the actual documentary, I read an article the other day that they had fish that were preserved in museums from like the 40s and the 50s. They still had plastic in them.
There's just plastic in fish.
They recently dissected them and looked into them, and there's plastic in the fish. And not only is there plastic, there's a bunch of runoff chemicals from just random chemical processing plants. There's a bunch of pharmaceutical waste inside of these fish. There's mercury, which isn't even the fucking biggest deal, apparently.
No. So, well, this is the weird thing. So, I'm kind of a health nut, and fish, you know,
are supposedly the healthy meat.
They're super healthy for you normally, right? Like composition wise, they're not super caloric, high in protein,
healthy fats,
good fats. And honestly, after seeing this, I can't eat that because my anorexia won't let me.
Yeah, so not only is it bad for you, it's destroying the fucking planet. The whole coral reef thing, everybody's like, oh, the reefs are dying because the higher global temperature is causing it to become bleached. So like the higher global temperature is leading to a higher carbonization of the oceans, and that's what's called the reefs are incapable of living in such an environment. Except you find out that that's not what's killing the reefs. It's the fact that we're farming. No, we're not farming. We're catching the fish that eat the fish whose shit feeds the reefs.
Yeah. And then also that those nets.
And we're going down and down and down on those lines. There's probably like 5 levels of ecosystem that feed the reefs. And we're destroying 2/3 of it. And then saying, hey, the water's warm. It's killing them.
Plus the nets just drag across the floor.
The nets destroy the reefs.
Destroy the reefs
the
like
fishing
nothing.
destroys the reefs. And yeah, the environmental change is probably destroying the reefs. But guess what? Most of that environmental change is coming from the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I can use a plastic bag in the grocery store and I can change that and do paper, which it's just fucking up more trees. Or I could do reusable, which is probably the safest option. But seemingly every body, whether it be a government or a third party, that is promoting environmentally conscious work in terms of using reusable items in your entire life, limiting your garbage, recycling, whatever. None of them put emphasis on corporations. Every single pro-environment group is like, it's the consumers that are doing this. You need to lower your own usage. How about the fact that cruise lines for decades have been pumping exhaust underwater because there are limitations internationally on the exhaust that can be pumped into the air?
Don't go on cruise ships, y'all. Don't do it. Don't perpetuate this.
What about the fact that the agriculture industry, specifically in terms of cattle, creates more methane gas and more greenhouse gases than any of the humans on Earth possibly could? You know what I'm saying?
It's all money related.
Of course it's all money related. And they're always trying to push that shit onto people.
Yeah, that's true.
It was like, people are doing this. Guess what? All of the corporations on Earth are fucking the world to death.
Yeah, pretty much.
Out of greed.
Yeah, out of greed.
You can't rule a corpse.
No, which is frightening to hear. And you know, and it's hard for people to like, oh, you know, don't eat fish. You know, actually, I'll tell you a little story. Gregory's birthday had recently happened, and
it was 2 days ago.
2 days ago, and at his birthday party, I was talking to a family friend of his, and I told her, I was like, she's like, I love salmon, I won't give it up, and I said, it's gray. She's like, I don't care.
My sister also saw Seaspiracy and will continue to eat fish.
I don't understand how someone could put that in their body. What I've decided to do.
Listen, honestly, we're not even giving like the best portrayal of this. If you watch this movie, if you're a morally conscious human being, or you even just care about yourself,
Yeah, be
you
selfish.
won't eat fish again.
Yeah, because honestly, I've decided that unless I visit Japan for some reason and I'm going to some like just rare occasions, I'm giving up the tuna from Gourmet I love. And I love tuna. You know what I mean?
It's delicious. Fish is tasty.
Yeah, and omega-3s, right? That's what everyone's always talking about.
Eat nuts.
Nuts or krill oil. That's sustainable.
No.
Yeah.
It's algae.
Well, algae.
That's the point that he made.
Well,
is that
krill.
We're eating, but it goes deeper than that. So a lot of people will be like, I eat fish oil because it's good for me. But it's not, because they're literally squeezing these infected
Fishes.
chemical-ridden fish to get that oil that those fish are getting from smaller fish that are rich in those oils that those fish are just getting from algae.
Yeah.
So we can literally get algae oil that has the exact same health benefits.
Is it not krill?
No, krill are fish.
I didn't know krill was fish.
Krill are really tiny fish that whales eat, typically.
Oh, okay. Well, either way.
The salmon aren't eating krill.
And I didn't think salmon were eating krill. Well, yeah, I guess you can get algae oil. I guess that's what I'll have to do because I was running out of fish oil pills and I know I needed to re-up. So I'm going to do that instead, I guess. They're a little more expensive, but, your health is worth it, people.
And then reiterating, like, people, they'll hear about all of this ocean destruction and they'll be like, well, I'll eat farmed fish. And that's exactly what this guy did. And we get to the farms, which we touched on earlier. They're overpopulated. They're living thousands of fish to very, very small enclosed areas where they apparently have STDs. Again, I don't even know how that's possible.
It's gross.
But they showed fish with bits of flesh missing because they're being eaten alive by parasites.
Like, that's just not appetizing. I'm sorry. It's just not.
And they are gray. They're fucking gray. You ever seen an animal that's meat is gray? You wouldn't eat it.
You wouldn't eat it.
And you wouldn't eat this fish. Which is why they dye it.
And I couldn't get over that when I explained that to them and they just didn't care.
And then the even more fucked up part about the farmed fishing, besides the STDs and the fact that they're fucking gray, is that they feed them with fish that are caught in the ocean. So you are eating farmed fish because it's supposedly sustainable, and the way they feed them is by gathering thousands of pounds of wild-caught fish, grinding them up into fucking paste, turning that shit into pellets, and then feeding it to the fish that they're farming.
They're giving them plastic polluted pellets to your farm fish.
That are
STDs
ridden with STDs.
And parasites.
And then you're buying that at Target and being like, I'm making a good choice for the environment and myself.
Yeah. No. It's gross, people. Just don't do it. Like, literally, unless you're going to, like, a 3-star Michelin restaurant or something, or, like, a like, an actual farm-to-table place, or I'm trying to think of, like...
Unless you're going out on a fucking boat and catching that fish yourself... Which is still gonna have plastic and chemicals in it.
Chemicals. Don't do it. Like, make this a rare occasion if you really love fish like that. Rare. I don't mean occasionally, a couple times, but I mean rare, people.
Like 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what it's got to be.
And make it count.
Make it count. Make it a big, ball out. But don't eat it regularly.
There's people eating crawfish boils every day. I suppose crawfish are like fucking better because they grow up in like rivers and shit like that. Like it's not really destroying anything, and those might be easier to farm. But I'm sure those bitches are colored too artificially.
They're so red. So yeah, guys, I don't know about you, but I'm a health nut. I'm not doing it.
The Faroe Island whaling, they're literally just killing whales.
And they had fun doing it. It was actually really
They were soaked in blood.
gross.
They were smoking cigars, smoking cigarettes, drinking brandy, and just murdering whales. They're like, well, I'd rather hunt this. Wait, which hit the guy that he interviews in his house. He has the slightest edge of a point. He goes, I would rather kill this one whale and get hundreds of pounds of meat that can sustain me for like an entire year than be like you people who will fish hundreds of millions of fish out of the ocean and like feed yourself for a day.
I guess I get it, but to a degree, the way that they enjoyed it so much. I mean, this is probably getting into our personal business, but like, I don't get the whole hunting like for sport, like fun aspect. Like,
No, not unless you need it.
yeah,
Like, unless
but
you're-
also just don't act like the attitude is so much the issue to me. Like, don't be like,
It was
yeah,
gross.
it was gross.
They rounded them up in boats, basically. They hounded down pods of whales, drove them onto the seashore at a beach, and then just stabbed them to death with hunting knives.
But they were happy. Like, it was a joyous occasion.
Babies,
And
adults,
I've-
mothers, all of it. They killed all of them.
I actually went to P-Town and whale watched. They're beautiful animals. I could not even fathom just stabbing them to death.
They're also highly
joyously.
intelligent.
Yeah, they are.
They're
That
fucking mammals.
yeah. I'm
Which
not-
isn't even to say that regular fish don't have feelings and shit, because they're finding out that they definitely do. Even plants do.
Blackfish, I think, was another documentary that had to do more specifically with whales. And yeah, it's just
Oh, and then the sharks.
oh,
They're killing millions of sharks per year
for their fins.
for fins
Just for
that
soup.
don't taste like anything and are basically the cartilage in your ear.
I'm pretty sure, Femi, if you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure you've had shark fin soup. Don't eat that shit. Don't.
And they went to like a region in, I believe it was in China, and there were just store after store of dried,
Fins.
desiccated shark fins. And basically run by the mafia. Like, they pulled out their cameras to record it, and people brandished, like, weapons at them. They went to the Tsukiji fish market in Japan. Some dude pulled out a butcher knife and was just like, get the fuck out of here and stop recording me with these fish.
Scurry.
It's terrible.
It's scurry.
It's terrible. What was I fucking... Oh, the sharks. People are like, fuck sharks. They kill humans. They
Not
attack
really.
us. You know, more people die. Because first of all, he told us that like 12 people died of shark attacks like in the previous year. That's monumentally minuscule compared to all the other ways you could die. But you know, coconuts murder more people per year than sharks ever could.
Like falling from trees.
Yes, and just fucking destroying you. Just whacking you on the head and you're dead.
Yeah. Shark attacks.
But that's
are-
like an actually recorded statistic.
yeah, because shark attacks don't really happen that much.
Unless you're fucking with sharks. No.
Yeah, not really. And I guess on occasion, like a surfer, because they'll think it's a seal, but then they let you go. They bite. I mean, granted, you might die from the bite, but they
Sure,
don't want
you might
you.
lose an arm, you might lose a leg,
they
but
don't
they
want
don't
you.
they don't want to eat you.
They got confused. That's
They don't
all.
want to eat you.
Fatal mistake, but a mistake nonetheless.
But that's like going into a jungle where you know there are tigers and being like, the tiger bit me. Yeah, I'm sure it did, man. You were fucking around in the tiger's home.
Yeah, so that's that. Actually, what's interesting too is they have another documentary called Cowspiracy. I'm not going to watch
I
that
can't.
because I don't really want to be a vegan. I just don't want to be one.
Plants have feelings too, man. We just can't eat anything. We just have to die.
We have to live somehow. We just have to learn to live differently, people. That's all I'm saying. But there was just too great of an argument with the fish. I'm sorry, because if there's just no sustainable way to do it, unlike farming, which there is sustainable farming for sure. I've read about that and like taken classes and whatever.
Oh, like land farming? Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely ways to do that.
Fuck.
Dairy too.
The ocean creates most of our oxygen.
Yeah.
It absorbs most of our CO2. It regulates the temperature of the entire planet. The fish inside of it are so abundant. Well, they were abundant.
Yeah.
And they're so diverse. There's so much life going on in the ocean. And we are absolutely fucking it. In like the worst way possible.
Like up the ass anal. Big dick style. No condom.
For a salmon?
A gray
For
one.
a tuna?
For a gray salmon.
For some squid?
For some scrimps.
No. It's like, no.
No, it's silly. Come on, y'all. It's really silly.
And I get the whole, there are cultures that are built around fishing.
Okay.
A lot of coastal areas, but we're not talking about those people. Because those people will catch like 10 fish a week.
Yeah.
In like a small canoe or like a really tiny fishing boat. These are multi-ton vessels catching hundreds of fish per hour, thousands of fish per day, and a whole lot of extra shit that they're not supposed to be catching, and they will pull it up. They'll pull up that bycatch, whether it be a dolphin or a turtle or whatever the fuck, and they'll kill it, and then throw it back into the water.
Yeah. There's some vile people that are doing this.
Those shark fins, they'll cut off the fins and then just throw the shark back in the water.
Like it's gonna live or something.
Like it's gonna grow back the fin. That bitch is just dead. Except it's not. It's gonna die slowly.
Yeah, which is inhumane.
What was I thinking? He brought up Somali pirates.
Yeah.
Apparently the reason they're even fucking pirates is because we have destroyed their livelihood of just fishing in their own traditional waters.
And the way that they do it, which is not super industrial, people. It's like the normal kind of fishing that you think of. So, really, I don't have much else to say because I shouldn't have to say anymore. And neither should Greg about this or anyone. Just stop eating fish. Like, stop being a dickhead and, like, be a healthier person, okay?
There was something else I was thinking of. It was like one other thing he touched on. First of all, that lady that made the nature documentaries that inspired him, she don't eat anything anymore.
Yeah.
She was like, I haven't eaten seafood in 40 years.
She looked fine to me.
And then she hadn't eaten meat at all in like 20.
She looked fine to me.
And she was ancient. She was like 90 fucking years old.
You can live a long life. Really, for me, I just can't give up yogurt. I love me some yogurt. I do. I love yogurt so much.
And then he did touch on trying to get us to stop eating land animals too, because he was also like the runoff from those practices.
I'm not obsessed with
the
meat.
ocean.
I'm not. I could go more of a sustainable route with that. It's just really yogurt. I can't.
I could just eat
Part
chicken.
ways. I love chicken.
I could just eat chicken and like dairy products for the rest of my life.
I could do that.
Like amongst the vegetables and fruits and stuff.
Yeah, that's technically true. I could totally do that. Turkey's a bird.
And turkey's delicious.
And these are healthier, leaner meats.
Turkey for sure.
Yeah, I eat turkey every day. Well, I'm on a cut, people. I wouldn't normally eat this. I would normally eat more yogurt and other things, but we don't need to talk about that on this podcast.
It was just crazy. Picking up like garbage on beaches, and it wasn't doing a goddamn thing because there's so much fucking plastic from the fishing.
Yeah.
And
nets.
people were like, oh, the microplastics. It's coming from the single-use stuff. No, it's not. It's breaking off from the fishing equipment. We have plastic in our bodies right now.
Like as we're speaking.
And we have no biological method of removing that naturally.
I wouldn't even know how you would remove it.
Same thing with the mercury. The mercury that everybody's always been freaking out about eating tuna, about eating this, eating that. Sure, we don't have a way of removing that. But you know what sounds really worse to me? plastic in my fucking bones, plastic in my bloodstream, plastic in my brain. Because of a fish? Because people want to use plastic for water bottles and for fucking packaging food and this and that? What's wrong with wax paper? You know what doesn't build up in your fucking brain? Wax.
That's fair. Yeah, you know, I've been living. Well, I guess I live a little more sustainably, right? I always use like the same stuff.
You gotta get rid of those plastic containers.
Bitch, no, what do you mean? I'm not gonna throw them out. I've been using them.
Also, recycling doesn't work because they just fucking...
I don't recycle.
Half the time, they just throw that shit into the same landfills that the garbage goes into, or they burn it and it goes into the atmosphere.
I will eventually invest in more Pyrex, people, okay? I had to buy a lot of stuff for a meal prep, and I didn't want to throw down the dough because maybe I didn't have it.
She did, though.
Maybe I did have it. I wrestle with myself about things.
But she's not eating fish anymore.
No.
And that's going to have a greater impact. Well, it's probably not going to have an impact at all because there are billions of people still eating
We
fish.
all need to make the change, people. Because the
What
industry.
kind of world are we going to live in 50 years?
Hopefully one I'm not going to be a part of.
Wow. You going to Mars?
Wherever they send you after you die.
That's it, guys. I mean, watch that shit yourself. I mean, it's not even that long. There was just a lot to talk about because it's so fucking shocking that all of this happens just in front of your face, really, and also in the shadows, but enough that you should feel comfortable in not eating fish.
It's just not that worth it. Pros and cons?
Like, eat whatever you have left. Get rid of it. Pros and cons of the movie?
No, I'm saying pros and
fish?
cons. Yeah, with the fish. It's just not worth it. I'm a person who's a huge...
Here are the pros.
Loves seafood.
Tasty, depending on when you cook it. Like, or how you cook it.
Yeah.
And here are the cons. Chemicals. Sexually transmitted diseases that I didn't know could even proliferate in fish. Half-eaten fish by parasites. The farmed ones are fucking gray.
Yeah.
And destroying the entire planet.
Mercury. Microplastics.
Pharmaceuticals.
Any other pollutants that's really in the ocean, which is a lot.
Everything.
Yeah.
Because of humans. But really, because of corporations.
Yeah. So if we all decide to stop eating fish, then they won't want to fish anymore. If you think about it, it's a supply and demand sort of issue. So band with us, Gregory and I.
Except they won't, because people are the worst.
Couldn't you get
Not you people.
Greg's sister to join?
But like...
But people are the worst.
People are the worst.
They don't care about their own health, which is really unfortunate.
Or just the fucking planet. Like, there's not going to be anywhere to live.
Be selfish, yo.
There's not going to be anywhere to live.
Yeah, I know. I get it. Which is why.
This isn't even the worst nature documentary about how the Earth is failing.
No. There's so
and
many.
it was still horrible.
That's it.
What do you think about the movie?
Oh, ratings? It's hard to rate documentaries.
Camera work was good.
No,
as much as they could do like professional camera work, and they weren't hiding from people trying to kill them.
The main guy was cool. I was engaged the entire time. It wasn't too long. Didn't overstay its welcome. I'd give it like a solid 8.
Yeah.
You know, it had an impact on my life, which not all documentaries do.
And I think we're gonna do probably 2 or 3 more documentaries as they come up, so we can have like a separate rating category for the documentaries.
Yeah, they're different.
Aside from typical cinematic movies.
Yeah, I'd say 8, 8.5.
Yeah, I'll go 8.4.
Yeah.
Maybe not eat fish again. Like, this is the first documentary that's made me not do something.
I texted Greg and I was like, we're not eating fish anymore.
And I was like, no way. And then I saw it and I was like, yes way.
Yeah, because I'm not one to overreact. Well, I do overreact, but also not with that kind of thing.
Also, last bit to touch on, the sea shepherds, those people are fucking badass. because I've seen a show about them before I saw the documentary. They literally hunt down vessels that are whaling and basically ram them into the ocean floor.
That's awesome.
Like they either partner up with militaries of the countries that these whaling ships are illegally whaling in, and will board the vessel, arrest them, find them, and send them back to their country. Or in the worst case scenario, they have literally sunk these ships. And that's not even pollution because fish, well, it's a little bit pollution, but fish end up just fucking using those sunken ships as habitats. Also, he mentioned that that huge Exxon oil spill killed like 0.1% the amount of fish that we kill every year.
Yeah, like it wasn't even like a big deal. In the way they like blew it up out of the media, like, oh, the fish, what? I'm like, we're doing this all the time. Like, so, like, let's stop.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Next episode, Outside the Wire. It was alright.
That one's not going to be a fun one to film because I don't have much.
Mostly because we don't remember it because it has been a while, but also
I didn't like it even then.
It was like a
my Adderall hasn't quite
film.
kicked in, people. I'm not quite on it.
It just wasn't that great of a movie.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Catch you next time.
Bye.